Hello and welcome to our episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby. A special episode today where I am joined by the co-chairs of the FIX EMEA Trading Conference. How are you guys?
Great to be here, thanks
Rebecca,
Toby.
lovely to see you. Matt, good to see you.
Good to see you.
FIX coming up again, very, very soon.
Yeah, here we are again, another year on.
Another year we do it. Great conference last year. How are you going to top it? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So tell us a little bit about what we can expect to see at this year's FIX conference. First of all, tell us where it is, tell us when it is.
Right, new venue.
New venue, right next to the London Stock Exchange, brand spanking new. So again, it's going to be even bigger venue from last year, brand new facilities, which is going to be great. How are we going to top it? Well, I think we definitely need to be talking about tag 74, tag 36, and then tag 3031. I mean, I don't know, and I think we'll go into the details of that within great detail. No. So what are we going to do? Well, critically, the key thing about FIX is, yes, it is about the tag values, it is about that engagement, but actually it's the lifeblood. It's that navigation of data standards. It's the navigation of trading. It's the navigation of liquidity. So all the things that we're looking at is the lifeblood to the industry and in a practical level of what we need to do, and from a practitioner's viewpoint. The key thing, though, is the theme this year is going to be in terms of the future, in terms of how this pulls together.
And I think
it's a strong theme running all the way through it, isn't it?
There is, deliberately, because we think actually a lot of the issues, we're still talking around the same issues around addressable liquidity, how we actually use the data, clean the data, normalise the data so it can add value in terms of useful insights for people. But with all the innovation that's happening in the fintech space and AI in particular, actually this matters more than ever because we're moving into a new future era where data is going to be the lifeblood. You could argue it's always been the lifeblood, but it's absolutely essential now. And topics such as AI are not even going to get off the ground successfully unless we've got the data and the standards right. So it's almost like a back to basics, but with a different lens. And what we really want to focus on in each of the panels, whether we're talking about equities, the futures of equities market, or fixed income, or even in the latter part of the day on AI, we've got carbon markets, TradFi and DeFi. They're all the similar themes, but we're moving into a new era. And that's really where we're hoping that actually we're going to start drilling down into some of the key areas where we think FIX should play a role, and how the industry in particular, those sitting in the audience, can actually help FIX achieve that.
Yeah, and I think the important point here as well is that we've also got to be cognizant and understand of the current situation where the industry's in. There's a lot of people who would chuck out their budget constraints, their, how do I actually build? Where do I, challenges in terms of where do I invest? What do I need to do and change? And so critically across the panels as well, we want to be asking the questions of, okay, from a business perspective, what do we need to do? What's the business justification for that? And then what's the change that needs to feed into that? Critically alongside that, as Rebecca said, is when we're looking at the industry, it's also about the industry as a whole. So we've got our trade association partners there as well. So the key thing is it's not just a talking shop. It's about, right, we've got an action item here. Who's the person that needs to own this? Where does this need to come from? How do we actually develop that? Because if you're just going to talk, that's not adding value. So the idea is, this is how we need to develop, this is how we need to evolve as an industry. And if you're not involved in that discussion, you're missing out.
And again, it's not an agenda-driven agenda, so to speak. It's there and it's impartial. That's always been the sort of special mix of the FIX conference itself as well, isn't it? That gives us the opportunity to actually talk and solve and come up with ideas as opposed to sort of be pushing agendas of any particular sort. Do you agree with that?
Well, that's a very tricky line, isn't it? But I'd have to say, yeah, that is the lifeblood of FIX, and Matt and I both feel very strongly that is how it should continue in terms of we really need to make sure that we're talking about topics that matter to the industry as a whole, rather than having a particular stance, if you like.
Or sales pitch.
Well, let's be fair. You know, it's sort of like a particular view, and you know, we work very hard with the industry in general in terms of understanding the topics that matter to them, and they are on the agenda for a reason. But also recognising that we're in a very fast-moving environment. So, you know, for example, you know, one of the topics that's coming up not now more frequently is sort of rebundling of unbundling. Now, if you'd said 6 months ago, is that an interesting conversation? Probably not. But now it's more around, okay, what does that actually mean in terms of the data that I can incorporate into my trading decisions? So we're looking at sort of the future of data and how that's going to be used. And then we've obviously had a very contentious report recently on the cost of data. You know, again, this is what I mean about they're actually very similar issues, but we seem to be having a different conversation now, and maybe that's I think what is more exciting about how we can potentially move it forward.
Yeah.
And the critical point to that, add on to that, is, as you said, everything's about data, everything's about that lifeblood, but it's also about impartiality and listening and hearing the facts of what's going on, not wanting to hear the spin. Because when you hear the facts, then that actually helps you enable to have the conversation around what do we do to solve these problems.
And that sort of comes, you know, when you talk about that, what do we do to solve these problems? It's about education, about learning, about sharing ideas, about, you know, and it's always been sort of much more interactive around that sort of side of things. You're not just coming there to listen to the same sort of conversations and do some, you know, some networking, which has always been very good around that. But it's also been about how can we take this forward and solve some collective problems. And I think that collective problem solving has always been a feature of what I've seen in the event.
There is, I mean, there's always the feature that unfortunately me and Rebecca were on the stage at the beginning. You know, but that will change. It will change.
Your routine again, I hope.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think we definitely need to shake that up. But you're right. It is about education and collaboration, and I think that's also why we've worked quite hard with NextGen, because it shouldn't just be those who've achieved success in the industry. It really is about bringing up new talent and new individuals so that they can, because their voice is just as important. And frankly, they could come up with some better ideas than perhaps we have. So it's about it's about having the conversation and making sure that actually they are included and feel included. So the idea is that everybody should be able to speak up and contribute.
And tell us about NextGen, how you're involving NextGen this time.
Well, NextGen is a critical piece because when you
lots of work being put in by FIX.
Lots of work. There's a whole working group around NextGen, and actually just yesterday I had an email from a buy-side trader wanting to get their NextGen come involved and get, which is absolutely brilliant, right? But NextGen is a critical piece of work that FIX has been pushed. It was introduced by Maria Netley, who's former regional director. And it is important. So there's various parts to it. One is that they have a place where they can network together, they can engage and feel that they build. You know, we've all been around. Rebecca and I have been around for quite a few years in the industry, as well as you, Toby, and you know how easy it is for us to be able to network because you've known each other for years. So we want to be able to build that same family within the next generation to help foster that. The other thing, as Rebecca said, we've got NextGeners speaking on panels and stuff like that, and the key thing is that we can actually help mentor and develop and hopefully produce, you know, really good public speakers and content deliverers, with also learning while engaging with FIX to be able to talk about Tag 851 and what is addressable liquidity and all those fun things as well.
It's great actually that when you say that and giving people the opportunity to do those first things. I was on a panel last year where I think maybe 4 people were speaking on a stage for the first time, and to see that sort of development and allow that sort of thing to happen and break down the barriers of you know, how scary it is, etc., it's a really good thing to start seeing that sort of thing come through. And I've noticed that, you know, having been fixed for how many, God knows how many years now, to the events, to actually see, you know, there's a cohort that you sort of grow up with, as you say before that as well, but. And it's maybe like, where's the next generation coming from? And actually now to see the focus on that and see new faces arriving throughout the thing, that's a really encouraging thing, I think, to see, isn't it?
No, it's really good. And as Rebecca said, it's new ideas. Because just because we do it in that particular way in the industry doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way. Or the fact that, okay, it's change. Human nature is to push against change, right? And that's where we need to have that adjustment to actually look, okay, how can we approach this in a different way? Oh, that might solve that problem that way. And I think, you know, NextGen is a critical area that comes into that, and also, you know, it also fits into the diversity side of things as well.
Yeah, and especially with this explosion at the moment of new opportunities, new technology, the future that you're talking about at the moment. it allows us to have stuff which, as you say, we've spoken about for a long, long time, but actually now see this is the area where we can accelerate and actually get some of these problems that we've seen developing really evolve. And that's an
I
exciting
think,
place.
well, it's interesting that because obviously we've got a panel on AI and it's a big buzzword at the moment, and I'm just back from New York where there was a round table on AI in trading in particular. But it is more of an evolution, and this is when we look back and see just how far we've come in terms of the introduction of electronic trading. I mean, obviously it was a big year for FIX last year, 30 years in electronic trading, and you can start to see actually where things have worked and where they still need improvement.
Yeah.
So I think what we're starting to see in AI in trading is more around actually this is much more enhanced analytics. So you start seeing it's about taking the post-trade analytics and making it more pre-trade, but pre-trade real time.
Yeah.
So it's moving on another notch in terms of what we can deliver. But again, it goes back to, right, have you got the right data? Have you got the right connectivity? Can you draw that information from all the different systems? And in that case, can you actually use it? So it's one thing having the data if you've got it, because fixed income will complain that they don't. But it's then how can I turn it into useful insights that can actually help me do a better job? And then that, of course, brings us on to the last panel of the day, is what's AI going to do for me in terms of where's my job?
Well, we've been on this show talking about that side of things, haven't we? And I think that we called it the elephant in the room, don't we? AI's taking a job. But as we were talking about beforehand, this is about how some jobs go, but they evolve and morph into others, and this huge explosion of other opportunity, to me, is the exciting part of this. There's so much opportunity that comes from it. There's so many different things that do it. This isn't about the robots taking over and people twiddling their thumbs wondering what we do next. It's about what can we do next and how can we be much more efficient. And that piece of exploding human potential, I think, is the really exciting part of all of this sort of thing, personally.
Well, you'd hope to as the recruiter in the room.
Terms and conditions apply.
But but I totally agree, and I think the key thing is actually about change and adjustment, and within the role at FIX, and something I feel quite personally important to myself, and I know Rebecca feels the same, is you're a custodian in terms of delivering that data standard and passing it through. And as the adoption of AI comes in, you're going to need those data standards to come through. You need that experience as a practitioner to be able to help inform that AI. And as you said, that then creates a whole different role for someone in the market.
Yeah.
And part of the discussion is about, how can AI help me do a better job? Well, actually, you need the experienced practitioner just as much as you need the AI technologist as a partnership in order to be able to see where the enhancements can be made. And it's iterative. So the more that you actually see where the enhancements are, you can see how you continually improve. And I think that is really what FIX is all about, is, how can we do a better job in trading electronically, whatever the asset class.
And tell us who we can expect to see. Who's coming along? What sort of speakers we got? Who's on the agenda for us?
So we've got the regulators covering the European continent, which highly experienced regulators. Doing the standard regulatory panel in terms of looking at what needs to come through. We've got a number.
But also focusing on what is top of mind for them as well, because I think, that's really important just in terms of we've had an awful lot of political change. So, we're in a new, again, the word the future. We're in another era, even if it's Mark II. But so we've got, we're trying to include new individuals along with some of the sort of more famous faces that we've had in the past.
You've got a good selection of buy-side, sell-side venues and vendors sprinkling across to actually create the diverse industry that we have in terms of different participants coming in. So, and with that, it also then hopefully informs on a great debate. So,
and it's also sort of we've got more on the sort of DeFi space and carbon markets to sort of try and expand FIX's arena in terms of what we cover. So it's definitely not just equity.
Something for everyone.
Something for everyone.
And we talked about the venue dates.
6th of March.
6th of March is a busy week that week as well, so lots of stuff going on, but it's a really, so and in terms of where people can sign up and find out.
Sign up, so come through from the FIX Trading Community website. and there are a number of different ways in terms of how you can get a ticket. Being a FIX member and different levels, you can actually get free tickets. If you're not a FIX member, why not? But the key question, if you're not a FIX member, you can acquire tickets. But secondly, alongside that as well, we've also got within FIX members, if you're a technology role within a firm, there are tickets dedicated to you and various other ones in terms of next generation as well. So what we're trying to do is really get a diverse audience across our industry and across the spectrum of
rather than it just
seniority.
being the heads of desk.
And it's an agenda that suits a lot of different people as well. It's kind of like you can build your own as you're working through it. So I think there's lots of interesting. I saw the agenda only a couple of days ago and I thought it was fantastic. Love the idea of the future piece, love the idea of where it's coming through. As you say, it's topics that need to be spoken about, topics that have been spoken about before, but evolving and taking on something for everyone as we're talking about with it too. So record numbers predicted?
Yeah.
We hope so. I think, and then definitely the case at the moment is trending exceptionally well in terms of the sign-ups. So if we do get where we're going, we are going to be sold out. So please come and register now. Otherwise, you might be disappointed.
It's always a spectacular event. It's lots of fun. It's great people to meet up with. Hugely informative. And loads of great stuff going on to it. So I'm excited about it. We'll be doing FinTech Focus all the way through the day. So very excited to be there for that too. And looking forward to seeing you both there on the day. Looking forward to the kicking off show as well. Always a highlight for me. Anything else you want to finish off with?
No, just join us.
See you then.
Cheers, thanks a lot.
Thank you all for watching. We'll see you on the next episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.